Hello, this is Christian Okoye, former Kansas City Chiefs. You are listening to Grilling Truth.
Welcome to the Grilling Truth's NFL Legends Show, brought to you by Gridiron Mo. Gridiron Mo is a new interactive football app where you get to call what you think the offense or defense should do during a live NFL game and see what all other fans have called also. Check out Gridiron Mo at www.gridironmo.com. As always, I'm your host for the Legends Show, Mike Goodpaster, and tonight we have a former Cincinnati Bengal, which everybody knows is always my favorite part of the show. I think we've had about 30 Bengals on here now. Gary was on our show, I think our Bengals Weekly show with me and Joe Kelly. So played in Super Bowl 16 for the Bengals, defensive lineman, had a career of about, a decade?
Oh, yeah.
Help us welcome to the Grilling Truth, Gary Burley.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, and hello, Cincinnati.
And everywhere else, because everybody else is jealous. They want to be Bengal fans. But.
Hey, everybody can't be one now. Come on.
So take us back to your childhood, Gary. When did you first fall in love with football?
Well, I tell you, my uncle took me to see the Cleveland Browns play the Minnesota Vikings. And I saw the Purple People Eaters. They made every play for the first quarter and a half. They made every play, and first time I noticed what a quarterback sack was, and I fell in love with the game at that time. And I said, "This is what I want to do one day." And through the blessings of God, I made it to the NFL, and it was just a great time. Some of those players that were before me, that I had an opportunity to learn from, it's just amazing, man.
Well, you decided to go to the University of Pittsburgh to play college football. What drove you to go to Pittsburgh?
Well, coming out of high school, I was an unrecruited athlete, and my mother, God rest her soul, sent me to Ohio State for a summer football camp. And at that time, I met two Ohio State greats, Jack Tatum and John Hicks. And after beating them in a foot race, they asked me where I was going to college, and I told them, Westinghouse. And they thought I was talking about Westinghouse College. I was talking about Westinghouse Appliance Manufacturing.
Oh, I was right then. That's what I thought, too.
Because my dad told me if I didn't go to college, I was going to work. And after they stopped laughing, they adopted me. And they trained me, and they introduced me to some of their professors and taught me about the ACT and, what it took to qualify for college. And I did. So coming from being a non-recruited athlete out of high school, I became a 4-year All-American, 2 years in junior college and 2 years at the University of Pittsburgh. And that's how I got from Grove City, Ohio, to University of Pittsburgh.
All right. Now, your first 2 years at Pitt, the teams weren't very good. You want to combine 3 or 4 games. I think your sophomore year, you guys only won a game. But what was it like for you?
No. You got it wrong, man. We were 6-4 my first year, and then we were 7-4 my 6-4-1 my first year, and then 7-4 my second year.
Oh, I went too far back then. I had you 71 through 74.
Oh no. I was 73 to 75.
Oh, all right. So you there with Johnny Majors then?
Johnny Majors and Tony Dorsett was my roommate.
Okay, so Johnny Majors, because you just missed winning a national championship there too.
Oh,
what did Johnny Majors? What did he do to change the culture of that team?
He taught us the winning attitude, and I've had maybe 4 coaches in my lifetime that have what it takes to teach. And you got your Paul Brown, you got Johnny Majors, you got Jackie Sherrill, and Forrest Gregg, and they were more teachers than they were coaches. They taught you how to win. They taught you a winning attitude. They taught you, how to be a gentleman off the field as well. So it was, when you have somebody like Paul Brown that you can look back and say, hey, listen, this guy put the face mask on helmets. And that's just one of his accomplishments. And you don't have to say anything else about him. But
first guy to watch film with these teams.
No doubt about it. And he taught us how to be winners. And unfortunately, we didn't win like we should have while he was still coaching. But we got it to a point where we did start winning, eventually got to a Super Bowl.
All right. Now, you were drafted by the Bengals, I believe, 1975.
Yeah, came to the Bengals out of Pittsburgh in 1975 as a third-round draft choice, and I stayed there for 9 years, and 9 of the most glorious years of my life. I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate the Brown family and the coaches that I had while I was there, because everything that they told me, Mike, about my career and what was going to happen after my career, and you got to take advantage of it. Everything that they told me came true. And it's just amazing. You know, we have an organization now. It's called Pro Start Academy, and basically we're a football and an academic academy where we teach kids how to market themselves for college scholarship consideration. So I just felt like I needed to give back the way that I was given to as a youth coming up. And I'm telling you, man, our first kid that was in our program was Marcel Darius. And Marcel, as you may know, was a first-round draft pick for the Buffalo Bills, and just renegotiated a $60 million contract. So what we do is we teach kids not only how to play the sport, the fundamentals of the sport, but also the academics that they're going to need to get in school and stay there once they get there, and then life skills. Now, can you imagine what it would be like when you were 12 years old, somebody taught you how to investigate stocks and bonds and how to invest? Where would you be at 21, 31, 41, so on and so forth? And that's
I'd been a lot better off if they would have just let me know how bad credit cards were, Gary. That balance in a checkbook, because I screwed that all up at college.
Well, I missed out on that, when they were giving away the free credit cards in college. I don't know. I must have been at lunch or something because.
Yeah, I got one. It was bad, too. My credit score will tell you that, too. Now, and the other thing, you can't be jumping around on me because the Pro Start Academy was what I was going to finish with.
Uh-oh. Well, we can go back to that. It's always good to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll bring it up again at the end, too.
No problem, man.
I'll tell you, by doing research on you, I found one story that I didn't know about. That before your senior season at Pitt, the player strike happened. You ended up getting to work out with a lot of great Pittsburgh Steeler defensive linemen, Mean Joe Green, guys like that. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Well, yeah. I like you said, the strike was on, and the Steelers worked out at our facility. And I befriended Dwight White, who was one of the great steel curtain defensive ends. And Dwight and I, started a friendship that lasted until he died. But to make a long story short, I trained every day with Mean Joe Green, Dwight White, Ernie Holmes, and L.C. Greenwood. Did I say L.C.? And there was one more guy, Ernie. I can't think of Ernie's last name, but he died not too long ago. But
Ernie Holmes? Ernie Holmes?
I'll take your word for it. But no, he was a good guy, and they taught me, before I got to the NFL, man, they taught me everything that I needed to know. They taught me how to pass rush. They taught me how to buy a house versus getting an apartment. I mean, when you have those guys like that have already been through it, and they take the time to nurture you and also make you a better athlete and person, you have to take advantage of that. So they were good guys, man, and I ran into Joe Green and asked him did he remember doing that, and he did. But I ran into him at the Hall of Fame when Chris Goldman was inducted. Yeah. And, I've never had a chance to sit down with Joe and have a beer, which I did there, and I think he's a great guy. Nothing's changed since the last time I knew him. So that's how I ended up working out with the Steelers. So all my life, I've been kind of had mentors that have taught me the difference between right and wrong and how to excel at my craft and how to be successful in life.
Now, in 1975, you were drafted by the Bengals. What were your first thoughts about going to Cincinnati?
I really didn't have any, negative thoughts about it because I didn't know that much about the team. I knew that, Coach Brown had left Cleveland at some time before that, and started this new franchise. And I was excited because I was only 100 miles from my parents. And my dad was ill at the time, so that was just perfect, that he could come see me play and come to practice and the whole 9 yards. So it was great.
Now, what was it like being around Paul Brown? I mean, 1975, I don't think you played that season, did you?
No, I was on injury reserve that year, but I had to practice every day.
That was a great team. I mean, the defensive backfield was one of the best ever. The defensive line was great. I mean, you want to talk a little bit about that defense? I mean, guys like Coy Bacon, Ken Riley, Lamar Parrish, Tommy Casanova.
Well, Coy came in '76, and I'll tell you about that because he and I still hold the record for quarterback sacks as a duo. We had 34 sacks that year. I had 10, he had the rest. And he was an amazing pass rusher. But you asked a question about Coach Brown. I'll tell you this quick story about Coach Brown, and he commanded everything. You know, you did what he said or you weren't there. Simple as that. He always said there's two ways of doing things, Gary. He used to call me the Pittsburgh Flash. He said there's two ways of doing things. And I said, well, what is that? He said, my way and the wrong way. And you wait for a laugh, and there was no laugh. So you know, he scared us off. So anyway, make a long story short, man, I'll tell you how powerful he was. We were about to go on strike one year, and I can't think of the representative for the Players Association who came in to tell us about the strike and what we were going to do and what to expect. So we're having this big meeting, and everybody's rah-rahing about the strike. Now, keep in mind, everybody has assigned seats when Coach Brown was there for the meetings. So we're sitting there yelling and screaming, and all of a sudden we hear the door open up. And this little guy in a baseball cap walks to the front of the room, tells the guy that's speaking to scoot over. And he turns around and looks at us and says, there's somebody driving a red Trans Am that's parked in my parking space. Move it. And all of a sudden the meeting was over. Everybody scrambled, trying to hide their faces. But, hey, he knows where you're sitting at, so he was just that kind of guy, man. He just struck fear in your heart, man. That was before guys were making millions and millions of dollars and you wanted to keep your job. And you knew that you didn't want to go to Green Bay back in those times, so you kind of did what Coach Brown said. But
all right, Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying he was a great coach and became a good friend of mine. And in the off season, we used to sit down and talk, and he would tell me stories about, you know, what was going on in his life and this and that, and what I needed to do and this and that. And I wish I would listen more closely to him.
Well, it's kind of the way everybody feels about, you know, either their coach or their parents. You know, you realize 20 years later that everything they said was right.
Exactly.
Now, 1976-77, the Bengals were very good, just barely missed the playoffs. What do you remember about those seasons?
I remember us waiting to, you know, when you're in the playoff hunt and there's no chance of you getting in except for, you know, slim and none, as they say. I can remember all of us hoping that something was going to happen. Somebody was going to lose or something that would get us into the playoffs. And it didn't happen that year. But what it did was ignite the guys. Everybody figured that we knew how to get there. We just had to, you know, have all the right tools in place and play, you know, like we should play and get the best out of every guy. And we will sooner or later get there. Unfortunately, we had a couple of bad years after that I think it was like 2, 4, and 12 years in a row.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And those were the years where you guys would start off like 0-9 and beat a couple playoff teams and look like it was going in the right direction, and then the next year it'd come out the same way. I remember 78, you guys upset a really good Rams team in L.A. on a Monday night towards the end of the season.
Oh, yeah. We had some great players, some great guys, and you know, my best friend is Isaac Curtis, and I talk to Isaac once a week. And you know, it's just so good to know what quality of players that we had, and we're all still friends. Pete Johnson, Archie, Billy Brooks, guys like that. You know, we're all just we all keep in touch with one another.
Now, like you said, 78, 79, the Bengals weren't very good. You get to 1980, you get a player by the name of Forrest Gregg, a guy that Vince Lombardi said was the greatest player he ever coached. How did he change the culture of the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, he didn't take any BS. That's the first thing. You know, when Coach was when it was first announced that Coach was coming, you know, you had all the guys saying what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do and this and that. And, you know, we had this big meeting and everybody said that, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And when he got here, none of those guys spoke up. Everybody did exactly what he said.
It's one of the few times you got a coach that might be able to take you if you give him a
Well, I'll tell you what, back in the day, man, he could have. I got to tell you, I was scared of him, man, because he used to yell at me sometimes, and I'm going like, you know, I just get nervous, man. I'm going like, what is this about, man? And then somebody told me, he says, Gary, if he didn't like you, he wouldn't yell at you. And we're friends to the day. You know, I was with him and his wife, his lovely wife Barbara, at the Hall of Fame, and he's still doing good, man. You know, he's got that illness, but he's taking advantage of what he has, the resources that he has, and he's doing well, doing very well.
All right, now we get to the 1981 season. I mean, it had been rough for 3 years. I mean, the 80 team was actually a pretty good team, but you guys lost a ton of close games right at the end. Beat Pittsburgh twice that year, if I remember right. But the 1981 season, what made it so much different than the other 3 years, and when did you realize that you guys had something special?
Well, I tell you, man, it was a magical year because everything worked. Everything worked right. And I think all the guys got an opportunity to see what happens if you put all your efforts into one motion and everybody's working together. And, you know, we had the offense working well, the special teams working well, the defense working well. Everybody was just doing what they were supposed to do. And it was all about what Coach used to tell us. He says, you know, if you do what you're supposed to do, if you learn your position and you know the guys next to you position, you can't go wrong. And that was one of the things that always stuck out in my mind, learning what the other guy's doing as well, so you know not to mess up. So when it all finally did click, man, the end result, we were sitting in the, I guess they call it the freezer bowl, and it was like 52 seconds left on the clock. And that's when we realized that we're going to the Super Bowl. Not until that time. I mean, that's when everybody looked at one another, and you could see the look on their face, like we are going to the Super Bowl. And then 52 seconds ran off the clock, and here we are. Here we go to the Super Bowl. One of the greatest.
You bring up the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the Super Bowl that year was in a place that was dang near as cold as where the championship game was.
But at least
what do you remember leading up to the biggest game of your life, especially the weeks before that? You know, I'm sure you had people asking for tickets and stuff. Kind of take people through what the 2-week period in between the Super Bowl and a championship game is like for a player.
Well, it's like when you have a coach like Coach Gregg that's been through it already. He had the opportunity. I mean, he took the opportunity to tell us what to expect and what not to expect, what to deal with the media, tickets and all that kind of stuff. You set aside time for all those different things, and you have time for your family and yourself and playing football, and that's it. And, you know, knowing somebody or somebody that can teach you those things once you've never been there before, it really helped us. And we were calm and collected, and unfortunately we didn't win, but, you know, we played a good football game.
Yeah. Real quick, we're going to take a break to pay some bills, but there's a guy by the name of Willie Roman. They call him the king of college football films. You told me he's got 15% of all college football games played since 1905. He also told me he had 2 or 3 games a year from Pitt also.
Really?
So check out football, yeah. So if you want, I can put you in contact with him.
Yeah,
but
it's great.
Really,
Email.
I mean, okay, he's got a site with like 50,000 games on it from 1905 to now. I think he had 3 or 4 games when you were a senior, may have more than that. But let's check out Willie Roman's site, which is footballvideos.com, and we'll be right back. Did you play college football? Do you know someone who did? Or are you just a huge college football fan? You need to go check out www.footballvideos.com, where we have tens of thousands of college football games played as far back as 1905 available for purchase. Take an amazing trip back in time, take a seat at the top of the press box, and watch the entire game as if you were there. For more information, call 717-732-5643 or email us at wdr@footballvideos.com. All right, we're back with Gary Burley, former Cincinnati Bengal and Atlanta Falcon, which I'd forgotten you even went to Atlanta. After the 1983 season, I guess you and Forrest Gregg both pulled up and left. Was that something you wanted to do or you kind of forced to do?
Well, when you have a trade, you have no choice in the matter. And I wasn't starting anymore for Cincinnati, and I felt like, I'd give it one more shot before I call it a day. And I went to Atlanta and ended up being a starter again, and was enjoying a great season. And then I tore my Achilles tendon, and that ended it right there. So actually, it still bothers me today. But I did have the opportunity to get back to the player that I used to be, and that was a great opportunity. All right,
now you talked about injuries right there with the Achilles, but what's your opinion on the way the NFL does or doesn't take care of the older players, plus the concussion issue?
Well, I think that they are starting to do something for the players that they have never done before. The lawsuit is out there. Guys that are experiencing these serious problems with what is it called, EAT, ECT, whatever it is.
Yeah, the CET.
CET, I'm sorry. Guys that are experiencing that, there's help for them out there, and it's just time for that to happen. We should look in our rear window and see that what happened in the past has nothing to do with what's going on right now. We got to get over all that and then get to our doctors and get to the settlements and all that kind of thing. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I do know that I'm glad to see that it is happening for guys. Fortunately, I'm not experiencing the worst part of it yet. I've got some symptoms and that type of thing, but I've got friends that, don't know their names. And It's unfortunate that happened. And when we played back in the day, nobody knew. There was no research. There was no concussion experiencing treatments or anything like that. You guys you got your bell rung, as they call it, and they hold up a couple of fingers and say, how many fingers? You say 2, and there's 6 up there. They say, okay, well, you're fine. Go back to playing. And that's the way it was. So I don't know if that's what caused a lot of the problems or what have you, but I do know that I've experienced guys that are suffering from injuries that are related to their early football days. And
all right, now before we wrap this up, my final question was about the Pro Start Academy. You talked about it a little bit earlier. You want to talk about it again, give everybody a general overview of what the program is and maybe where they can find out more information?
Sure. Pro Start Academy has been up and running for 10 years. And basically what we do, we're all retired NFL players and other professionals, and we teach kids the basic fundamentals of the sport. So if your student athlete needs training, there's no other program like ours. And I'm telling you that because that's what I know. And I've done a lot of research on programs. It's either all football or all sport, we call it weight training, things of this nature. We do all of that. We do football fundamentals. We do weight training. We do speed training, and we do we teach the academics that kids are going to need not only to get in school, but stay there once they get there. And then the final piece of the package is we have some of the top CEOs from around the area that come in and teach kids how they got from the loading dock to the boardroom. And
now, where are you located at the academy?
Yeah, we're here in Birmingham, Alabama at John Carroll High School.
Okay.
And our website is www.prostart.com.
All right, Gary, it was an absolute honor to have you on the show. I know you've been on before, and hopefully we can have you on again.
Oh, well, thank you so much, man, and everybody in Cincinnati and surrounding areas. Have a great evening.
Hey, thanks a lot, Gary.
You're welcome.
Hey, remember, guys, check out all of our shows on iTunes, Actually, we've got a website now, which I forgot all about last night when I was doing the show. So you can check out the Grueling Truth website at www.gruelingtruth.net. Still working on it a little bit, but everything should be up by this weekend. Tomorrow night we'll have another former Cincinnati Bengal, Brian Blados, who was a starter Super Bowl 23. We will also have Libertarian presidential candidate Darryl Perry tomorrow. And then Friday we will have Libertarian presidential candidate John McAfee, who was the inventor of the Microsoft or the antivirus, McAfee antivirus. And then we will have our first holistic medicine show with Dr. William Grome about inflammation. That will be posted Friday night also. Next week, we're going to have Gary Myers on, who wrote a book, Brady versus Manning, that's on the New York Times bestseller list. And we'll have a bunch more on top of that. And you can check out all of our past shows. We had Andy Russell last week. You go on our website, you can find it. You can also find it, like I said, on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. And make sure you check out The Grueling Truth at www.gruelingtruth.net. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Gridiron Mow. You can check them out at gridironmows.com. And, of course, Willie Roman's football site, which if you're a college football fan or you knew somebody that played college football, you're going to love this. He's got games from 1905 all the way up to now. I mean, make sure you check out that website. It's footballvideos.com. You'll also be able to find a link to all these sponsors on our webpage. Also, check out SteelbergBox.com and RealBengalsFans.com. So, for Gary Burley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. This has been The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.